welcome to the Coaching Hour. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Coaches Network South Africa. My name is Paul Rotherham. I'm the person who has to officially welcome you because Marika and Mary just couldn't be bothered. That's the reality of it. The people I work with, terrible. Hello, ladies.
Oh, wow. Yes, hello, Paul.
Morning.
Well, we have to start things with a nice light flavor today. But on a serious note,
Yes.
wonderful that you could be here. We look forward to entertaining you and informing you on this podcast. Marika, let's chat about
Mm,
who our guest is today. Very exciting topic.
it is going to be very interesting. We have again with us today Anouka Petr. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. She is originally from the corporate environment, and then she went through a big tragedy, losing her husband and her son. If I remember correctly, we had a discussion of that, in our previous discussion. So you have moved now into the grief counseling sphere. But today we're talking about something very different and very interesting. Do romantic fairy tales set us up for disappointment? So I think this is quite interesting. So Anouka, how did you get into this, let's say, dimension of your coaching?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Well, I got into it because I personally got into it. So after losing my husband and son, I did a lot of therapy. I had some years on my own to go through the grieving process. And after about 4 years, I found myself very lonely and yearning for a partner again. My husband and I were together for 15 years. I really enjoyed the unit of the marriage, and it wasn't always easy. I'm the first to say that, but I longed for that again. And I decided to go on the dating scene. And this was very daunting and very scary after 18 years. And I entered into a relationship with a gentleman, and it was completely the wrong person for me. The red flags were all over the place. Everybody around me thought that this was the wrong person. I kind of recognized that. But I think I was so lonely that I just thought somehow that it would just get better. I didn't think too much. I think that was the thing. Anyway, 12 months later, we broke up, and I found myself very upset and depressed, and even though knowing it was the wrong person. And I just realized that I said to myself, Anouka, you've got to date better. Why did you do this? You came from a successful marriage. How did you get this so wrong? And I started to say, you got to wake up about this. You got to be more clever about this. So, together with Willie Snyman, we started to sit together, and this guy was very vocal about things that I had done wrong in the relationship. And I also had a very good friend, a male friend, not a female, who gave me a lot of advice, and I listened very carefully as a female on how males saw this very differently. And out of that, we started to write a course. And we wrote a course called Understanding Your Love Choices. So it's for people who are single and they want to start dating, people who are on the dating scene, people who have a partner and they're wondering, does this have the potential to last? If you are married, it is too late. You've signed and sealed, you've made the decision, sorry. But it basically comes down to the fact that, if you're going to go and buy a house or a car, let's say you're going to go and buy a car, for example. I was in the car, I used to sell cars. So people would walk in and say, look, I've done my homework. I'm looking for a diesel. I'm looking for 4 doors. I'm looking for an SUV. I've done my homework. I've looked at this. It's got to have this, not that color. So why are we so picky when it comes to buying a house or buying a car, but when it comes to partners, we don't have this. We just walk
Mm,
around and we just hope that the right person falls on our path.
mm,
And another thing that I do is that I help companies employ the right staff into the right position. So I've done a lot of interviews. I've done possibly 400 or 500 interviews with people, and I do interviews from when they were born. And I've picked up that a lot of people's issues come from broken homes, people that have grown up in houses where parents are divorced. And and that to me is a massive thing. It's not people who have lost parents to death. It's from divorced homes. And I have spoken when I do my grief counseling, there's always this thing that my clients say where they say, at least I know my partner loved me. There's no rejection we deal with, there's no bitterness, but when people divorce, there's so many different traumas that they have to deal with. It's that betrayal often, it's rejection, it's the children, it's the uninvolved parents, it's the children that are dealing with collateral damage. So it's a huge passion of mine to try and um, get people to understand that there's really so many benefits in having a good, solid marriage. I always say if you want to give your child or children one gift in life, just one gift, it's giving them happy, good, solid marriage. That's it.
It almost
So that's
sounds,
where it was born. Sorry, Paul.
you made it sound quite scientific. And I guess I'm the only man here with three ladies who are all romantic and enjoy these Richard Gere movies and George Clooney movies where we're going, please, that never happens. But you have made it sound quite scientific. You were relating to being a car salesperson and the questions we should be asking. You've developed a course. Do we overcomplicate things? Are we actually just almost science experiments in a sense, do you think?
Yes, I agree that sometimes we do overcomplicate things. When I spoke to this friend of mine who's a male, I started to realize that men are actually quite simple creatures, and they are often the ones who suffer more in the divorces. That they are often the ones who just want a very simple, happy home life. I mean, obviously, you get your people your men who are playboys, but I reckon, and this is just my personal opinion, it may not be everybody else's opinion, but I think there's a small percentage out there. For the most, I think male or men are quite solid, stable. They're just happy at home. I think sometimes women can overcomplicate things and read things into situations that's not necessary or go into below the lines, things that are like that where I remember him saying a lot to me where he would say to me, but he told you this, so it's that. And I would say, oh, really? I would have thought if he said that, it kind of meant this and this and this. And he would say, no, he just means it's that. So, um, yes, I think, um, and men seem to do very well in good marriages. And very often I've heard when I've spoken to men that have gone through divorces, they really struggle. They find it's a personal failure. They're very embarrassed about it. When I do grief counseling, people come to me because they're grieving and they find a way that they can speak to people and society have a lot of sympathy with them. They've lost a spouse, they have support around them. But people that divorce don't have that. It's kind of like, well, you chose the divorce. Um, it was your choice, and very often it's not those people's choices. And there's a shame and a guilt that runs with it. There's often not extra support. There's the family and the friends that move away from those people that don't support them. So I think it's very difficult. And often I ask people, why did you get divorced? And then sometimes they say, well, looking back today, I'm not sure. I would have. So I think a lot of people bail out today often very quickly. Obviously, if there's tremendous abuse and that sort of thing, fair enough. I'm not saying you should stay around, but I often think people bail out too quickly, especially with small kids. Sometimes I think I want to say to them, well, just suck it up. For the kids, it's more important that you stay together and have that home than disrupt the whole family, put them in different schools, move away, bring in new partners. Um, just to quickly say, I'm in a blended family now with a new husband. His partner passed away, so we don't have exes, but even that is challenging with children, with a blended family. So I don't know how people with other spouses in the background manage that. That's very, very challenging.
Mary? Mary, yes, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this subject is so interesting because it's worldwide, and I think that every country has their own dynamic of relationships. Like in South Africa, I'm just talking broadly now. I'm not saying it's general, but in South Africa, the largest population, they don't even have a marriage. There's people that are born into fatherless, most of them fatherless, families. They're with grandmother and the grandfather raises the child. So thinking about what you've said about relationships, can you imagine the trauma and the separateness of those children that are not even born in a marriage?
Yep. Absolutely, because one of the biggest things that a human being wants to feel is the sense of belonging. They have that within the mother and the father, within the home. And this thing about the fathers in our society, I think it's getting a lot better where fathers are playing an intricate role, but there are so many people out there that have got absolutely uninvolved fathers. They do not even know where their fathers are, who their fathers are, or they do know, and the father chooses not to be involved. It is one of the highest sense of rejection a human being feels.
Yeah.
And, again, when I do these interviews with people to get a job in a company, I mean, I'm not doing this as a psychologist. I'm doing it as to see if you fit the job in the company. What comes out is that I have issues as an adult because my father was not present. I am carrying this with me. And very often, I mean, it's fantastic if we can just there are people out there. I mean, Sia Kulisi, if I may just use a name out there. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I was hoping that he was going to break that pattern from what happened to him in his life. But then he's gone into a divorce, and you wonder, and it's not that they don't follow the pattern because they want the same thing, but it's just normal to them. It's so difficult for them to break what's happened to them because they grew up like that for 25 years. It kind of becomes a habit thing.
Subconscious behavior.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. So, yeah, Marika, I've got a little presentation. I don't know if I can share that.
Yes,
Because it's got a bit of
absolutely.
facts. Paul, you say I sound scientific, but I like science, and I like facts.
Okay.
So let me,
Yes, you can share your screen.
thank you. So let me bring that up. Let me just move this away. Are you all able to see it?
Yep, I
Yes.
can see it.
Right. Right. So the question I said was, or I asked was, do they set us up the fairy tales for disappointment? So one of the things is what we spoke about earlier on, Marika, was that yes, they do. I think they do set us up for disappointment. I think they're brought into the show business to excite us for love. But why do fairy tales set us up for disappointment? And it's because it does promote unrealistic expectations. In other words, when we watch a movie or a fairy tale, it usually ends at the beginning of the relationship. So we see the happily ever after moment rather than showing us what comes next, what happens further. So it doesn't show us the mundane or the difficult parts of maintaining a relationship, how people grow and change over time, or how to deal with real conflict and compromise within a relationship. So this can make love seem like it's just a single grand event rather than an ongoing process, leaving relationships feeling less magical.
Okay.
Also, what it does is I think it makes it look like it's fated. In other words, you are meant for one perfect person. That you often hear in these programs, I'm looking for my person. Or in Afrikaans, they often say my potse daksel. Like there's only one person meant for you. And you would recognize them instantly, like Cinderella went to the ball and her prince immediately recognized her. There were thousands of people, and somehow when he saw her, he just knew she was it, and that she would fulfill him forever. But in reality, love is usually built slowly through mutual effort, that word that none of us like, communication, and sometimes luck, not destiny. I often say to people, sometimes luck plays a role. I'm the first to say, with my first husband, we were married for 11 years when he passed away. We distinctly remember when we were married for 10 years, we looked at each other in the bathroom and we both said, we don't know how we got here. We don't know how we made it. We didn't have a magic, we didn't do courses or anything like that. I think it was luck. When real relationships don't feel instantly perfect, people may assume that something is wrong, and then they may bail quickly, too quickly.
Can I jump in
And then
here,
another problem.
Anouka? And
Say again, Paul?
just to jump in, and I don't mean to
Yes.
interrupt you. I
No.
think that this now is becoming really clear in a world where more and more young people, particularly very easily influenced teenagers and young adults, are being exposed to this through TikTok, Instagram, social media. So now it's not just a case of reading a bedtime story. I see that on the screen now, for instance, is the Beauty and the Beast photograph, which we all grew up having that read to us as a story, or we saw the movie or the DVD as it was when we used to watch. But now I think this sort of content is really shoved down people's throats because, in every sense, the perfect life is portrayed. I have a 19-year-old daughter, and I see some of the influencers. I hate the word, but that's what they are. I see how they portray their lives, and I think to myself, goodness me, aside from the fact that most of your life has come across as fake, even your relationships, you're only ever
Mm,
showing the good. So I think the technological age
mm,
that we're living in has just really exacerbated this.
mm. Unfortunately, it's true. I always refer to it as, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but it's like the top billing life. If you remember the program, Top Billing, everything was perfect on there. So no, if you had to see the perfect family and the perfect house and the perfect life. So if anybody got sick or they divorced or life happened, they would not do the show on you. Um, but I would like to think that there are some programs and there are some things where they do show a little bit more real things, but perhaps it's not that popular with people. People, I think this Beauty and the Beast is what make it it helps us to dream and have goals, and that's why it sells. But it's very difficult to keep reality in mind. What you're saying is nobody's selling reality to us. Where are we going to learn reality?
And the irony is that so many of these shows are billed as reality shows, where meanwhile they're completely the opposite. It's not reality at all. And I have to tell my daughter this time and time again when she sees somebody her age with the perfect bedroom and the perfect brand new car. And I just think to myself, relationship wise, it's the same. There's no difference. We don't get to see the couples fighting or arguing or
Yeah.
having a terrible day or waking up looking bad. We only ever see them perfect. But I just wanted to say that I think in this
Absolutely.
world now, technological advancement and social media has made this even worse. That's just the point I wanted to
Absolutely.
make.
You're 100% correct. And then the problem with some of the fairy tales like Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella can suggest that pain, sacrifice, or endurance in the face of mistreatment are tests of true love. So this can make people think that love should hurt and ultimately blur healthy boundaries and self-love in a relationship. In other words, women should sacrifice themselves, and that should equate to true love instead of having healthy boundaries. Classic fairy tales often depict men as rescuers or saviors, the knight in shining armor coming to rescue you from Cinderella was a maid, um, and the prince came and rescued her out of a terrible life. And this can reinforce limiting belief that love equals dependency. And that's another problem with it.
Interesting.
So, the reason why we also wrote the course is to say to you, do you think that we can avoid ending up with the wrong romantic partner? Because you don't want to 10 years down the line with 3 kids say, we never should have married. I should have checked this. I should have done that. But how can we do that? Yes, Mary.
The thing is that the so-called I'm in love feeling, it's completely la la land because you don't see faults at all. You just feel the feeling of love. So you love everything that moves and everything that it's just that feeling of love, and so there's no cognitive awareness to look at yourself and ask those introspective questions.
It's very true.
Like
But
a blind,
remember, it's a
blind spot.
very important ingredient in love. Otherwise, you may as well just marry a friend that you reckon will be good for a potential partner. So you do need the chemistry. So we start with that. And that is what gets the relationship going. So don't stress about it too much. It's important. And that's what brings two potential partners together. But it's what we take further. It's what we do with it further.
When I was young, much younger than I am now, I went to see somebody because I was having problems, and he was a doctor and a psychologist, and he said to me that any relationship can work. 50% of the arranged marriages work.
I think some arranged marriages, yes, can work. Definitely. If the compatibility is quite high, it can work, yes. But this
I
is what
think,
we help people with. But not every relationship can work. No.
yeah. So I think what I got out of that was that the background, because that's what he explained to me, was the background of each partner gets investigated by the parents to see the background, how this person grew up and vice versa. Do we want this person in our family? Can this person fit into our family model? I think that's a good start.
So what we believe is that there are 3 key ingredients in making a relationship successful, obviously the end goal is a marriage with long term. The first is your chemistry. You do need chemistry. Then you do need compatibility. So you're talking about the compatibility. So, because remember, love isn't enough. Love is great, but it's not enough. So what the Indian culture check is the compatibility, but what they're keeping out is the chemistry. And then you need commitment. So I believe that you need all three. And often that's what makes that arranged marriage not working, is the chemistry is lacking.
Mm.
Right, so let's have a little look at more scientific facts. What is the marriage and divorce stats in our country? This is from Stats SA. So 4 out of 10 marriages in our country end in divorce before their 10th anniversary. And in the majority of divorces, couples have only been married 5 to 9 years.
Interesting, eh?
Mm.
True.
Peak divorce ages are men in their 40s and women in their 30s. And then this is for me a very, very important fact. More than half of divorces represent families with young children.
Mm.
This leaves a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And just, what is the emotional impact of going through divorce? This is what a lot of people don't talk about. The emotional, the failure, the shame, the remorse, the anger, the guilt, the regret, the disappointment. I always say, when you never actually divorce a person. If you have children with someone, you can know that you will remain married to that person until either the children die or you die. But you are actually going to stay married to that person. You may just not be legally married, but you will have to deal with that person. So you are actually still married to that person forever. But now you have to see that person with another partner. You may be, coming out of that divorce telling everybody that this person is a terrible person. And the next thing, that person gets another partner. Now they have a blossoming relationship. So there's so many issues and things that you have to deal with when it comes to a divorce. And what is the upside of marriage? So many people think today that marriage is an old-fashioned institution. I don't think so at all. I think marriage is quite a modern thing, and it's kept itself modern throughout the years, actually. And is there an upside to getting married in today's world? And I definitely think so. So I don't know if you're aware of it. In 1938, some scientists at the Harvard University started a scientific study on the humans. They started with 268 humans. The Kennedys were actually part of it. In fact, they just started with the males and eventually went over to the females and the children, the grandchildren. And that study is still ongoing today. But what they were not studying marriages or anything like that. What they were studying is they were trying to find out if they could get to the secret of what can give a human being a long and healthy life. So what do you need to become old and have a healthy, a good quality life? So what did they find? So this is Robert Waldinger that you see on the picture here with his wife. He was the director of the study at the time. Surprisingly, how happy we are in our relationships has a powerful influence on our health.
Absolutely.
People who were most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80.
Makes sense.
And close and meaningful relationships, more than money or fame, are what keep people happy throughout their lives. And the study also found that marital satisfaction has a protective effect on people's mental health. So this was incredible. That they thought perhaps it's the food you eat or the diet or the exercise, but what kept people healthier and living longer was a strong, healthy marriage, and particularly, and also the relationships around them. So the bottom line, to simplify it, it's actually quite good for you to be in a good, healthy marriage.
Anouka, I've got a
Hmm.
question, and I know we are running tight on time. A question from the left field here, and that is that I'm certainly not suggesting you live in an abusive marriage and a relationship that's toxic, but in your experience of dealing with grief, counseling, and what you're doing now with the marriage course, as it were, if somebody feels that they are in an unpleasant marriage, we know now by the stats and from what you've said that it's very easy to just give up. We all give up far too easily. In your experience, would your suggestion be to remain in that marriage where it's not actually what you thought it would be and you're perhaps not fulfilled or happy? To remain in that knowing that this too shall pass? Or would you say if it's really bad, get out? Kind of what's the point at which you open the door and pull the parachute? And I know that's different for
So,
everyone, but just in your
yeah,
experience.
it's a good question, and Paul, you would know that it's not the same for everyone. Nobody says you must stay in an abusive marriage. But first of all, do you have kids? What will the effect be on your children? What can you do to change it? Can you also lower your expectations about what it is that you need? Is it something that you can work through? Is it something, that you can live with for a certain period of time? Isn't there a way that you can rather work through this? Because you must just remember something. People often forget this. If you bail out on this and you look for the next partner, now I've had two husbands. I mean, and we've all had loads of relationships of different partners. We all know this, but I've had two partners, two husbands. They are both very different. They both bring their sets of problems. The one brings their wonderful part and their sets of problems. The other one the same, and they would say the same about me. So you can bail, but you must just know when you find another human being, you're going to have other problems.
True.
So you must just think about that carefully. And also, if you have children, you must really weigh it up.
It sounds to
Yes,
me
Mary.
like dealing with marriage and considering emigrating are very similar conversations because
Yes.
Yeah.
the perception is very often that the grass is greener on the other side, and sometimes not at all, not the case.
If I may just say something, Mary, before you ask, our perception is that we've got to be, I think the perception is out there, we've got to be happy. Life has got to be happy, and we have to be happy all the time. And if somebody doesn't make us happy, then we've just got to bail and find a new life. Life isn't there to make you happy. So, you have to, what's your part in this? What are you doing to help that person grow? What are you doing to help yourself grow? What part are you playing in this whole situation and so forth? It's not just there are many women who, I know people, I've got friends who have bailed out of relationships. They do not make me happy. I'm looking for someone who can make me happy. I do not agree with that.
Mary? Yes, Mary?
Mary?
Okay, so I'm with you there because nobody can make you happy. You've got to be happy with yourself first. It always starts with self-love, self-acceptance, self-acknowledgement, honoring self, respecting self. Then you are ready for a relationship where the partner must have the same, also honoring themselves and honoring them. you know, it's a long process of working with oneself and having, you know, issues from growing up in an environment where there was abuse, or maybe there was alcohol abuse or drug abuse, or maybe violence, or maybe fighting parents. It leaves scars. And one has to sort out those scars first before entering into, I mean, I'm not saying you can come into the relationship perfect, but at least get rid of most of the triggers. And then once you're in the relationship, each one will trigger each other, and then do introspection. What is triggering me in this word, or how you've said it, or you know, I believe a partner teaches you about yourself, and the same
Correct.
each other. I mean, you're growing in this partnership, and you are learning about yourself in the
Correct.
relationship.
Correct. My belief is, this is just again my belief. The relationship with your partner is the most important relationship you will ever have in your life. It is not your children. It is the relationship with your partner. And it is the relationship that will challenge and grow you the most. And if you can get through those difficult parts, they may sometimes last for days or months, or sometimes you have a difficult year with a partner. But if you can get through them, then the relationship actually deepens, and it actually becomes better and deeper. I'll speak from personal experience. My husband and I fought many times. My previous husband and I fought many times. But after we fought, and after that, it feels like the relationship is deeper, it's better, it's stronger. And I'm sure I'm not old yet. I'm 50 now. And if I ever make it to that stage, and if my husband and I make it to that stage, I don't know if we will, but I can only imagine, if I look at that couple on the screen, that if you do have a lot of years together, that it becomes like wine, where it gets better and better and better. And I've seen that with couples. And I think that's what we should aspire to, instead of just having new partners all the time. And that I think that's far more special. And for children to have that solid upbringing, to see that, because I just want to show you the slide on this is just to say, people who have had happy marriages in their 80s reported better moods on the day when they had more physical pain. And research has found that women who securely attached to their spouses were less depressed, had better memory function. But the positive impact on children is the safety and the security that they feel in a home. And then also, if you think about it, when you bring up a child in a home where there's a mom and a dad, a family, they learn how to deal with conflict, with problems. How they take that into their future relationship, because that's the only place where they're really going to see how that's going to happen. So you're preparing them for their future marriage with their kids. You are the teacher to that. They see there that if mom and dad are a team working together, this is how they deal with conflict, this is how they fight, this is how they work through, this is how they suffer through, then they will hopefully take that into their marriage. And that's a great gift that you can give to children.
It sounds, Anouka, as if there are real pragmatic ways to live happily ever after. We started with the fairy tale, and I think we've kind of gone full circle, because you've just given some very basic tools, I think, on how you can remain happy. and a marriage is never going to be perfect. I don't think any relationship is ever perfect, far from. But I think the perseverance, pushing through, obviously respect, mutual respect, and I think just getting to know yourself. And somebody once said to my wife and I that this whole idea of two halves becoming one in a marriage is a misnomer. That ultimately it is still two wholes. a complete person and another complete person. And again, I think there's almost a fairy tale aspect to that where, oh, you join each other and you become one. In a way, I get the romantic side of that, but in reality, you can't pitch up being just half, and your partner can't pitch up being half, thinking that now two halves make a whole. It doesn't work like that. But thank you. I know you're on a timeline. Marika, anything from you? You've been sitting very quietly in the corner today.
I'm listening and learning.
I think what I took out of it is the fact that you always feel deep after a fight and after problems.
Yes.
So my advice today to wrap up the coaching hour is to just fight more.
Yeah.
And suck it up.
That's a joke, of course, but yeah, you're right. And I think if we reflect on it, if you think about those times where you've really been challenged, there is a sense of a deeper connection that happens around those times. So, Anouka, thank you so much. My final thought or question is your contact details. I would imagine many people have questions. They'd like to continue the conversation with you. Where do we find Anouka?
So I have a practice, Anouka's practice. I have a website, anouka.co.za, or if you do want to do grief counseling, it's dealingwithloss.co.za. And yeah, it's a great course. The Understanding Love Choices is very practical. I'm a very practical person. It's 4 sessions that I do of 90 minutes each. And if you have a son or a daughter that you would like to learn how they literally have lists on what to ask, because we say by 6 months, if you're dating and you're dating someone, by 6 months you should be able to see on paper whether this person has the potential to last, to make it to the end or not. So that's the course that I offer there. So thank you very much.
Fabulous. And just for clarity, if you're listening to this, not watching it, Anouka is Anouka. So anouka.co.za. That's the site that's all about you.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to you for watching or listening to the Coaching Hour. We'll look forward to your company in the next one. Marika, Mary, thank you as always for your insight and questions. Cheers for now.